Have you ever wondered why, despite all your spiritual seeking, prayers and positive affirmations, you still feel trapped in cycles of struggle, lack and limitation? What if I told you the answer has been hiding in plain sight, in perhaps the most powerful words ever spoken, I am? Most people completely misunderstand what Jesus meant when he declared, I am the light of the world. I am the way, the truth and the life, or I am the resurrection and the life. Has this ever happened to you? You repeat these powerful phrases as affirmations, hoping to manifest healing, abundance or peace, yet find yourself still identifying with your problems, your past, your limitations. The profound truth is that when Jesus proclaimed, I am, he wasn't making statements about his personal identity or circumstances. He was revealing something far more revolutionary, the divine consciousness that flows through all of creation, including you. This wasn't just spiritual poetry, it was the ultimate revelation about your true nature. When you truly awaken to why Jesus declared, I am, everything changes from the inside out. You begin to recognize that the I in I am isn't your personality, your job title, your bank account, or your relationship status. It's the divine presence within you, the same presence that spoke through Moses at the burning bush saying, I am that I am. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you understand both Jesus' teachings and your own spiritual identity. The revelation is so simple yet so profound that most seekers miss it entirely, continuing to look outside themselves for what has always been within. Think about it. When Jesus said, I am the light of the world, he wasn't speaking about his human identity as Jesus of Nazareth. He was revealing the Christ consciousness that dwells within all of us. And here's where the magic happens. As you begin to stop identifying with your temporary human conditions and recognize the I am as God expressing through you, something extraordinary unfolds. Your problems don't get solved in the conventional sense. They dissolve because they were never real in spiritual truth. They were just shadows cast by false identification with the temporary. This isn't positive thinking or mere affirmations. This is recognizing what you have always been but forgot along the journey of human experience. What would change in your life if you understood that you are not a human seeking God, but rather God consciousness experiencing itself as you? Imagine the weight that would lift from your shoulders when you realize that the divine I am that you truly are has never been sick, has never lacked anything, has never been afraid. The revelation doesn't end there, though. In fact, we're just scratching the surface of what happens when you wake up to this profound revelation. You see, many spiritual seekers on their transformative journey make a critical error. They use I am statements as affirmations to change their human experience. I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am successful, while still fundamentally believing they're separate from God, trying desperately to manifest something from outside themselves. If these spiritual revelations are awakening something within you, subscribe to join our community of seekers exploring the divine consciousness that Jesus revealed through his I am declarations. This mindset creates an internal division that blocks the very revelation Jesus came to share. When he declared, I am the bread of life, or I am the resurrection, he wasn't giving us phrases to repeat like spiritual mantras. He was unveiling the hidden truth that the I that speaks through all of us is not our personality, our ego, or our human identity. It's the same divine consciousness that spoke through Moses at the burning bush, declaring, I am that I am. and through Jesus himself, proclaiming, "Before Abraham was, I am." This is the profound insight that changes everything. You are not using "I am" statements. The divine "I am" is using you as its expression. Can you feel the difference? It's like the sun trying to affirm, "I am bright," when brightness is its very nature. The sun doesn't need to become bright. It simply needs to remove any clouds that temporarily obscure its light. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic and share with you what happens in your consciousness when you truly grasp why Jesus proclaimed, "I am." You begin to practice something revolutionary, resting in pure awareness without adding qualifiers. This is the essence of Jesus' teachings that most religious institutions have missed entirely. Instead of thinking, "I am sick," or "I am lacking," or even "I am spiritual," you simply rest in the pure awareness of "I am," without addition. Try it right now as you're watching this video. Just feel the presence of "I am," without adding any description to it. This silent, spacious awareness is your true identity speaking, the eternal Christ consciousness that Jesus revealed. What makes this practice so powerful is that it allows divine consciousness to express itself through you without your human attempts to change, fix, or improve your experience. You're not trying to become spiritual or demonstrate healing. You're acknowledging what has always been true beneath the surface appearances. This is the ultimate journey behind the scenes of your human experience, discovering that what you've been seeking has always been what you are. The divine "I am" that you truly are has never been sick, has never lacked anything, and has never been separated from the wholeness of God's love. Only the false sense of identity, the ego, experiences these limitations. As you practice resting in the pure "I am" throughout your day, you'll notice something remarkable beginning to happen. Problems that seem so overwhelming start to dissolve, not because you've fixed them, but because you've shifted your identification from the temporary human experience to the eternal divine presence that you are. If this revelation is resonating within you, write in the comments, "I am awakening to my true nature," and let me share how this understanding begins to transform your relationships with others in ways you might never have imagined. When Jesus proclaimed those powerful words, "I and the Father are one," he wasn't sharing a mystical concept meant only for the spiritually elite. He was revealing a fundamental truth about your identity that transforms the entire landscape of your life's journey. This revelation about "I am" uncovers the most liberating insight possible. There is absolutely no separation between you and the infinite source of all good. Think about what this means for your everyday reality. Every experience of lack you've ever felt, every fear that's gripped your heart, every limitation that's held you back, none of these originate in truth. They all stem from believing a profound misconception about your true nature. You've been accepting the illusion that you could somehow be separate from wholeness, that God could be over there while you remain over here, struggling on your own. This illusion of separation is the hidden source of all human suffering. It's like a fish swimming in the ocean, desperately searching for water, not realizing that what it seeks is already the very environment in which it lives, moves, and has its being. The revelation of "I am" shatters this illusion completely. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was pointing to the astonishing truth that divine consciousness is not something to be attained. It's what you already are at the core of your being. The veil between you and God isn't thick. It doesn't even exist, except in thought. As you begin to embrace this revelation about "I am," something remarkable unfolds in your daily experience. You naturally begin to perceive life from a divine perspective rather than a human one. Problems that once seemed overwhelming begin to fade, not because circumstances necessarily change overnight, but because you're no longer feeding them with your belief and focused attention. This shift in perspective is profound in its impact. You begin to rest in what is eternally true rather than what temporarily appears to be happening. This is what Jesus meant by practicing the presence of God, recognizing that where you are, God is, because there is only one I am expressing itself through infinite individualized points of consciousness. Consider how this revelation transforms your approach to challenges. When facing a difficult situation, instead of frantically trying to fix it from a place of separation and fear, you simply return to the awareness that the divine I am that you truly are has never been touched by any human problem. This doesn't mean you ignore practical action. It means you take action from wholeness rather than from lack. The mindset shift is revolutionary. You're no longer a human being trying to connect with God. Your divine consciousness experiencing itself through human form. Your problems don't define you because they aren't happening to who you truly are. They're temporary appearances in consciousness, like images on a movie screen. This understanding doesn't make you detached from life. Quite the opposite. It allows you to engage more fully, more compassionately, and more effectively, because you're operating from your true center rather than from the periphery of changing conditions. You become like the eye of a hurricane, perfectly still and peaceful while the winds of circumstance swirl around you. If this perspective is beginning to resonate with the deepest part of you, write in the comments, "I recognize the one I am," and let me share how this understanding begins to transform not just your inner experience, but your entire outer world of manifestation. When this revelation of Jesus, I am, becomes more than just an intellectual concept and transforms into your living reality, a profound inner revolution occurs. The entire framework of how you navigate life undergoes a remarkable metamorphosis. You suddenly realize you've been searching in all the wrong places, looking to the external world for what can only be found within the depths of your true nature. This shift in awareness creates a fundamental change in your decision-making process. You stop frantically trying to manipulate people or circumstances to make yourself feel better, whole, or complete. The endless pursuit of external validation through relationships, achievements, possessions, or status naturally falls away. Not through force or discipline, but through the simple recognition that what you've been seeking out there has always been what you are. Remember when Jesus declared, "I am the bread of life." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was revealing that the divine consciousness that you truly are is the only source of genuine nourishment and satisfaction. When you rest in this completeness, the desperate hunger for more money, more approval, more security begins to dissolve, because you recognize yourself as the abundant source rather than a needy recipient. This revelation creates a blueprint for authentic living, unlike anything the world teaches. Instead of approaching life from a mindset of lack and limitation, constantly trying to fill an inner emptiness, you begin to express from the overflow of wholeness. The impact is felt in every dimension of your experience. You give instead of seeking to get because you recognize yourself as the source of giving. You love instead of desperately seeking to be loved because you know yourself as love itself. You serve others without expecting anything in return because service becomes the natural expression of your divine nature rather than a strategy to earn approval or rewards. Can you see how this understanding completely inverts the typical human approach to fulfillment? Most people live their entire lives believing that happiness comes from getting their needs met by the world. But Jesus revealed the hidden truth, that genuine fulfillment comes from expressing the divine qualities that you already are as the I am. This isn't about denying human needs or suppressing desires. It's about recognizing the true source from which all fulfillment flows. When Jesus proclaimed, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he was pointing to this profound revelation that the path to wholeness isn't found in accumulating more, but in awakening to the completeness that has always been your true nature. As this understanding deepens, your entire relationship with life transforms. Challenges that once seemed like obstacles to your happiness become opportunities to express the divine qualities of wisdom, compassion, and strength that are intrinsic to your true identity. Your journey shifts from a desperate search for fulfillment to a joyful expression of the fullness that you already are. If you're beginning to sense this profound shift in perspective, write in the comments, "I am the expression of divine wholeness." And let's explore how this understanding begins to transform not just your personal experience, but your healing impact on others around you. Now, I want to share with you one of the most profound revelations about healing that Jesus ever revealed. When he declared, "I am the resurrection and the life," he wasn't simply making a statement about his ability to raise Lazarus from the dead. He was pointing to a revolutionary truth about your very nature, your divine consciousness. Your true "I am" has never been sick and can never be sick. This insight completely transforms the journey of healing. Most people spend years desperately trying different treatments, therapies, and spiritual techniques to heal their bodies or minds, all while still believing that they, as human beings, need to be healed. But what if the breakthrough in healing doesn't come from fixing what's broken, but from recognizing what has never been broken? Subscribe now to continue this journey of spiritual awakening as we explore more transformative teachings that help you live from your true divine identity. The mindset shift is radical. When you stop trying to heal what isn't real and begin to rest in what you actually are, something remarkable happens. Healing manifests not as a miracle or supernatural intervention, but as the natural revelation of your true wholeness that was always present beneath the appearance of disease. I'm reminded of a woman who had struggled with chronic illness for decades. She had tried every medical and spiritual approach without lasting results. The revelation came when she finally understood that her divine "I am" presence had never experienced sickness. She stopped fighting against her condition and instead rested in the awareness of her true spiritual identity. Within weeks, her symptoms began to fade, but more importantly, her relationship with life itself transformed completely. She no longer lived as a victim of circumstances, but as an expression of wholeness. This same revelation about "I am" completely revolutionizes your approach to success in every area of life. Think about how most people pursue achievement from a place of fear, scarcity, and desperate striving. They believe they must fight against competition, overcome limitations, and prove their worth through exhausting effort. But when you understand Jesus' declaration, "I am the vine, you are the branches," everything shifts. As you start each day resting in the pure awareness of "I am" without addition, your decisions naturally flow from peace instead of fear, from abundance instead of lack. The transformation in your work life is remarkable. What was once a source of stress and struggle becomes an expression of joy and service. A business executive shared how this understanding changed everything about his approach. For years, he had been driven by fear of failure, working endless hours, constantly stressed about performance and results. When he began practicing the presence of the "I am" each morning before work, his entire relationship with success transformed. He began making choices from a place of inner security rather than desperate striving, from creativity rather than competition. His business didn't just improve financially, it became a channel for expressing the very qualities of the divine consciousness that he recognized as his true identity. Decisions became clearer, relationships more harmonious, and opportunities seemed to appear precisely when needed. This wasn't magical manifestation. It was the natural expression of alignment with his true nature. If you've experienced glimpses of this effortless success in your own life, write in the comments, "I am the source of my abundance." And let's explore how this understanding transforms your ability to navigate life's most challenging moments with unshakable peace. One of the most profound statements Jesus ever made was when he declared, "Before Abraham was, I am." This wasn't just a claim about his pre-existence, it was a revelation about the eternal nature of divine consciousness itself. When you truly awaken to this declaration, you realize something astonishing. The same infinite intelligence that creates galaxies, orchestrates the dance of atoms, and designs the intricate patterns of nature is the very I am that you are at your core. This recognition completely transforms your relationship with life itself. You begin to trust the divine wisdom operating as your life in a way that makes everything more fluid and harmonious. It's not that challenges disappear. They don't. But you meet everything from the unshakable foundation of knowing who you really are beyond all temporary appearances and circumstances. Think about how most people navigate life, constantly trying to control outcomes, worried about making mistakes, feeling like they have to figure everything out with their limited human minds. The burden is exhausting. But when you understand that the divine I am is the real intelligence operating through you, there's a profound surrender that occurs. You stop trying to force solutions and start allowing intuitive guidance to emerge naturally. A scientist shared how this understanding transformed his research. Instead of struggling to solve complex problems through sheer mental effort, he began each day acknowledging the divine intelligence working through him. Breakthroughs began to emerge in moments of quiet receptivity rather than frantic activity. His most significant discoveries came not from thinking harder, but from listening deeper to the wisdom already present within. This same revelation completely transforms your relationships with others. When Jesus declared, "I am the Good Shepherd," he was demonstrating a revolutionary approach to connection. Most people enter relationships seeking to get something: love, approval, security, validation. But when you understand I am, you recognize yourself as divine love expressing. You're no longer trying to extract love from others, because you realize you are love itself in expression. The blueprint for authentic relationships emerges naturally from this understanding. Instead of seeing others through the lens of your own needs and expectations, you begin to recognize them as they truly are: divine. Consciousness temporarily appearing as human personalities with their own conditioning and patterns. A woman shared how this perspective healed her marriage of 20 years. She had been constantly frustrated by her husband's behavior, trying to change him to meet her needs. When she began to see him as divine consciousness, temporarily confused about his true identity, just as she had been, everything shifted. She stopped judging his human personality and started relating to the divine presence within him. Their relationship transformed, not because he changed, but because she began relating to him from truth rather than from her wounded ego. The healing power of this understanding extends to every relationship in your life: family, friends, colleagues, even strangers. When you consistently see others as divine consciousness rather than as human problems or sources of fulfillment, you create an atmosphere where authentic connection naturally emerges. If you've noticed your relationships beginning to transform through this understanding, write in the comments, "I see the divine in everyone," and let's explore how this consciousness becomes a healing presence that transforms not just your life, but everyone you encounter. As this understanding of I am becomes more deeply integrated into your consciousness, a remarkable transformation begins to take place. You become a healing presence wherever you go. This isn't about developing special healing powers or abilities. It's about embodying the truth that Jesus revealed when he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." Your peaceful awareness of the divine nature within yourself naturally extends to recognizing that same divine presence in everyone you meet. Think about how most people interact with others who are struggling. They see the problem, focus on the symptoms, and immediately try to fix what appears to be broken. But when you awaken to the revelation of I am, you consistently see beyond appearances to the perfect divine consciousness that others truly are beneath their temporary human conditions and confusions. This shift in perception creates a healing atmosphere around you without any effort or manipulation on your part. A mother shared how this understanding transformed her relationship with her teenage son, who was struggling with addiction. Instead of seeing him as a problem to be fixed or controlled, she began to hold the awareness that the divine I am expressing. As her son was perfect and whole, temporarily confused about its true identity, just as she had been before her awakening. The journey behind the scenes of this transformation wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt and fear, but she continued to hold this consciousness faithfully. Within months, something shifted. Without pressure or intervention from her, her son began making different choices, seeking help, and rebuilding his life. Her peaceful recognition of his true divine nature had created the space for his own inner awakening to emerge naturally. Now I want to share with you the most profound revelation about Jesus' I am, how it transforms your experience during life's most challenging moments. When Jesus promised, "I am with you always," he wasn't offering temporary comfort. He was revealing that in moments of crisis, you can rest in the unshakable truth that divine consciousness is never in crisis. This is where the rubber meets the road in spiritual understanding. It's relatively easy to acknowledge your divine nature when everything is going well. But can you remember who you really are when facing serious illness, financial collapse, loss of a loved one, or other painful circumstances? These challenges aren't obstacles to your spiritual growth. They're the very opportunities through which your understanding becomes unshakable. A man shared how this understanding completely transformed his experience during a devastating financial crisis. Instead of being consumed by fear and desperation, he practiced returning to the awareness of his true identity, the divine I am that remained untouched by temporary conditions. Solutions began to emerge not from frantic activity, but from the clear guidance that naturally flows when you're aligned with your true nature. The revelation he discovered wasn't that the crisis magically disappeared, but that he found unshakable peace regardless of circumstances. His relationship to the challenge completely transformed. He was no longer a victim of events beyond his control, but a conscious expression of divine wisdom, meeting each moment with clarity and trust. If you've experienced moments where this understanding has carried you through difficult times, write in the comments, "I find peace in my true identity," and let's explore how this awareness becomes your foundation for navigating life's most practical, everyday challenges. Let's explore what might be the ultimate frontier in this. Spiritual understanding, integrating the revelation of I am into your practical, everyday life. This is where the rubber truly meets the road. It's one thing to feel connected to your divine nature during meditation or while reading spiritual texts, but it's quite another to remember and live from this truth when facing criticism at work, when navigating difficult family dynamics, or when dealing with mundane challenges like traffic jams and financial pressures. The illuminating question becomes, can you remember your divine identity when your boss criticizes you unfairly, when someone you love is suffering, when everything in your carefully constructed world seems to be falling apart? These challenging moments aren't obstacles to your spiritual journey. They're the very crucible through which your understanding becomes unshakable and authentic. A teacher once shared how this awareness transformed an encounter with an angry parent. Instead of becoming defensive or reactive, she remembered her true identity as divine consciousness and saw the same presence in the upset parent, temporarily obscured by fear. From that recognition, she responded with compassion rather than defensiveness, completely diffusing what could have escalated into a hostile confrontation. The journey to embodying this understanding in daily life isn't always smooth. There will be moments when you forget, when the old patterns of reaction and identification with problems resurface. That's completely natural. The key is not to judge yourself when you temporarily lose sight of your true identity. Instead, gently return to the awareness of I am, without making the forgetting mean anything about your spiritual progress. Each time you successfully remember who you really are, in the midst of life's challenges, you strengthen this awareness until it gradually becomes your natural way of being. Start with smaller irritations before tackling bigger challenges. Practice remembering I am during minor disappointments, and you'll find yourself increasingly able to maintain this awareness even during major life transitions and crises. Perhaps the most profound revelation that comes from truly understanding why Jesus declared I am is the end of spiritual seeking itself. After years or even decades of searching for enlightenment, pursuing techniques, attending workshops, and reading countless books, you discover what you've been seeking has been what you are all along. This recognition brings a profound peace, because the restless searching that drives so much of human experience simply stops. You're no longer frantically trying to become spiritual or achieve some future state of enlightenment. You recognize that you're not a human having occasional spiritual experiences, your spiritual consciousness itself having a temporary human experience. The freedom in this understanding is immeasurable. You stop striving to prove your worth or demonstrate your spirituality. You're free to be authentically yourself without apology or explanation. This doesn't mean you stop growing or learning. It means you do so from wholeness rather than from lack, from love rather than fear, from the abundance of what you are rather than from the poverty of what you think you lack. If this shift from seeking to being resonates with your own journey, write in the comments, I am what I've been seeking. And let's explore how this understanding transforms your relationship with the divine. Presence itself. As we reach this moment of shared understanding, I'm reminded of something profound about Jesus' I am declarations. These weren't just statements he made 2,000 years ago. They're an eternal invitation to awaken to your true divine nature right here, right now. The journey of understanding I am isn't a destination you reach once and for all. It's a continuous unfolding, a daily remembering of who you truly are beneath all appearances. Each time you recognize yourself as divine consciousness expressing, you contribute to the awakening of collective humanity. If these revelations have resonated with something deep within you, I'd love for you to be part of this community of awakening souls. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue exploring these transformative truths together. The understanding of I am touches every aspect of life: healing, relationships, purpose, abundance, and we're just beginning to unpack its profound implications. When you subscribe, you're not just following content, you're joining a movement of consciousness that's remembering its divine nature in human form. And if this message has touched your heart today, gentle tap that like button as a simple acknowledgement of the truth awakening within you. I'd love to know you've made it all the way through this exploration, so leave a comment saying, I am awakening now, to connect with others on this journey of remembering. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to continue their own path of discovery. There's a video right here that explores how this understanding of I am transforms your experience of abundance and manifestation. Click and continue with me there as we dive even deeper into the practical power of living from your divine identity in everyday life. Have you ever wondered if there's more to Jesus Christ than what you've been taught all your life? What if everything you believe about spiritual power and divine presence has been limited by centuries of religious tradition? Now imagine for a moment that the Jesus you learned about in Sunday school wasn't just a historical figure to be worshipped from a distance, but actually the blueprint for your own spiritual awakening. What would change in your life if you discovered that the Christ wasn't merely a person who lived 2,000 years ago, but a living presence available to you right now, in this very moment? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. The spiritual journey of awakening to the Christ within begins with a revolutionary understanding that shatters conventional religious boundaries. It opens a doorway to experiencing divine power not as something distant or separate from you, but as your very essence. Has this ever happened to you? That moment when a new understanding suddenly makes everything you thought you knew appear in an entirely different light. Stay with me until the end, because what we're about to explore might transform not just your spiritual understanding, but your entire experience of life itself. At the heart of this awakening is the recognition that Jesus of Nazareth was not some supernatural being beyond our comprehension, but rather a man who achieved something extraordinary. He became so filled with Christ consciousness that his human personality dissolved into pure spiritual being. What you're about to discover might surprise you. Those miraculous healings, the walking on water, the feeding of thousands, these weren't performed through Jesus' personal power or special divine favor. They happened because Jesus recognized his complete oneness with the infinite source. Remember when Jesus said, "I can of mine own self do nothing"? He wasn't being modest. He was revealing the profound secret of his spiritual mastery. The human Jesus became transparent to the Christ presence flowing through him. He didn't heal people through some magical ability that only he possessed. Instead, he recognized the spiritual perfection that was already present within every person who came seeking help. And here's the truly revolutionary part. This same Christ presence exists within you right now. It's not something you develop through years of spiritual practice or earn through good behavior. It's your fundamental spiritual identity that remains perfect and whole, regardless of what appears to be happening in your human experience. This understanding creates a profound mindset shift that touches the very core of how you experience daily life. Your relationships, your health, and even your sense of purpose in this world. The journey to discovering this hidden truth within yourself doesn't require special qualifications or years of religious devotion. If you're resonating with these teachings on Christ consciousness, hit subscribe to join our spiritual community and continue exploring these transformative principles together. Jesus simply demonstrated what becomes possible when we stop identifying with human limitation and recognize our divine nature. What if the struggles you're facing right now, whether physical, emotional, financial, or relational, could be transformed through this same recognition? What if the power that healed the blind, made the lame walk, and even conquered death is actually your birthright as a spiritual being? The implications of this understanding go far beyond religious belief or theological concepts. They touch the very core of how you experience daily life, your relationships, your health, and even your sense of purpose in this world. Think about it. What this revelation shows is that the same Christ presence that expressed itself through Jesus exists within you right now. This isn't some mystical theory or theological abstraction. It's a practical revelation about your true identity. The journey to discovering this hidden truth within yourself doesn't require special qualifications or years of religious devotion. It's your fundamental spiritual identity that remains perfect regardless of human circumstances. This understanding creates a profound mindset shift in how we approach our challenges. When you're facing illness, relationship conflicts, or financial struggles, you're not a broken human being pleading with a distant deity for help. You're a perfect spiritual expression temporarily forgetting your divine nature. The transformation happens in that moment of recognition when you remember who you truly are. Most of us have been conditioned to pray as if we're sending requests to an external God, hoping our messages reach some divine inbox. We ask Jesus or God to intervene in our lives, to fix our problems, to heal our bodies. But what if prayer was never meant to be about getting God's attention? What if the entire paradigm of prayer as petition is missing the mark? When you understand that Christ lives as your true being, prayer undergoes a radical metamorphosis. It becomes a moment of recognition rather than request. You're not trying to convince God to help you. You're awakening to the divine presence that has never been absent from your experience. This is the profound insight that revolutionizes spiritual practice. Imagine the impact this could have on your daily experience. Instead of starting your day with worried thoughts and anxiety about what might go wrong, you begin with the quiet recognition of your spiritual identity. Problems that seemed insurmountable suddenly reveal themselves as opportunities for Christ consciousness to demonstrate its infinite power through you. This isn't positive thinking or psychological technique. It's a fundamental realignment with what has always been true about you. The reason this approach creates such dramatic shifts in people's lives is that it's not about adding something new to your experience. It's about removing the veils of misunderstanding that have obscured your spiritual vision. I've witnessed people with chronic health conditions that didn't respond to medical treatment experience complete healing when they caught even a glimpse of this truth. I've seen decades-long family conflicts dissolve when just one person in the situation recognized the Christ presence in themselves and others. The revelations that emerge from this understanding don't just change your spiritual beliefs, they transform your entire journey through this world. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this recognition shifts your identity from human to spiritual being, and how that shift creates space for genuine healing to occur. If something in this message resonates with your inner knowing, write, "I recognize the Christ within," in the comments below. When you fully grasp that you are not a limited human having occasional spiritual moments, but rather a spiritual being having a temporary human experience, everything changes. This profound identity shift isn't just a conceptual understanding. It's a complete revolution in consciousness that transforms how you navigate every aspect of life. When this truth deeply penetrates your awareness, you begin to see yourself differently. The human persona you've identified with for decades, with all its history, limitations, and struggles, is recognized as just the outer expression of something far more profound. Behind the scenes of your human life exists a perfect spiritual identity that has never been damaged, limited, or separate from divine wholeness. This revelation creates a dramatic mindset shift. Every challenge that appears in your life is no longer a problem to be solved or endured. It becomes an invitation, a sacred opportunity to demonstrate the Christ presence that is your true nature. The difficult colleague at work, the unexpected financial setback, the chronic health condition, all transform from burdensome problems into opportunities for spiritual awakening. The journey to this recognition doesn't require years of arduous spiritual practice. It can happen in an instant when you're ready to let go of. Your investment in seeing yourself as limited. The most compelling evidence for this approach is in the transformations it creates. I've witnessed people who struggled with chronic pain for decades experience complete relief when they recognize themselves as spiritual beings rather than physical bodies with problems. I've seen businesses on the brink of bankruptcy suddenly receive unexpected opportunities when their owners shifted from fear-based scrambling to recognition of divine intelligence operating through their work. These revelations aren't abstract or theoretical. They create tangible results in everyday life. The shift happens when you stop seeing yourself as a human struggling to become more spiritual, and instead recognize yourself as inherently spiritual, temporarily expressing through human form. This understanding doesn't just change your beliefs, it transforms your entire experience. Consider the breakthrough experience of a woman who came to one of our classes, carrying decades of bitter resentment toward her ex-husband. This wasn't just a minor grievance. It was a deep wound that had poisoned her emotional landscape for 15 years. She had tried everything the human mind could conceive to heal this pain. Intensive therapy, forgiveness exercises, meditation retreats, even medication for the depression that had developed alongside her resentment. Nothing worked. Then she encountered this profound truth about Christ consciousness, and something fundamental shifted in her perception. She realized that holding on to anger wasn't just hurting her emotionally, it was actively denying the Christ presence in both herself and her former spouse. This wasn't about pretending the hurt hadn't happened or excusing harmful behavior. It was about recognizing a spiritual reality deeper than the human story. The transformation wasn't gradual, it was immediate and decisive. Within just 3 weeks of this recognition, something happened that defied all conventional expectations. Her ex-husband called unexpectedly after years of painful silence. He apologized sincerely for years of hurtful behavior and asked for her forgiveness. If you've experienced moments where you sensed your spiritual identity beyond your human story, type "I am spirit" in the comments below. Subscribe to this channel if you want to dive deeper into practical spiritual wisdom that can transform your everyday experience from limitation to limitless possibility. Even more remarkably, she found herself responding from a wellspring of genuine compassion she didn't know she possessed. This wasn't positive thinking or psychological technique at work. When she recognized Christ as her true identity, the love that had always been present beneath the human drama emerged naturally, creating space for healing that 15 years of conventional approaches couldn't achieve. This same principle applies powerfully in the material realm too. A businessman facing imminent bankruptcy attended one of our retreats as a final desperate measure. He had exhausted every human solution, refinancing, marketing pushes, staff cuts, consultants, and was preparing to lose everything he had built over 20 years. When he heard that Christ consciousness was his true identity, something clicked into place. He experienced an inner alignment that transformed his entire approach. Instead of frantically chasing potential clients from a place of desperation and fear, he began each day by quietly acknowledging the Christ presence within himself and within every person he would encounter. This shift wasn't just spiritual theory. It completely changed how he operated in the marketplace. He stopped trying to manipulate outcomes through force of will and started trusting the divine intelligence that knew how to prosper him better than his human mind could conceive. The results defied conventional business logic. Within just 2 months, 3 major contracts appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Companies that had never responded to his proposals suddenly reached out wanting to work with him. What changed wasn't his strategy or market conditions. It was his consciousness. Perhaps one of the most heartbreaking human struggles is watching a loved one battle addiction. The feelings of helplessness, fear, and grief can be overwhelming, especially for parents witnessing their children's suffering. One mother's journey demonstrates the extraordinary breakthrough possible through spiritual recognition. She had watched her teenage son spiral into drug addiction and despair despite her best efforts to help. Every conventional intervention had failed. Counselors, rehabilitation programs, tough love approaches all seemed to make the situation worse rather than better. In desperation, she turned to these teachings and discovered a radical new approach. She needed to stop seeing her son as an addict, a broken human being needing to be fixed, and start recognizing the perfect Christ presence that was his true spiritual identity. This wasn't denial or enabling destructive behavior. It required holding steadfast to a spiritual truth that contradicted everything her physical eyes were showing her. The journey wasn't immediate. For 6 months, she maintained this inner recognition despite no visible evidence of change. She stopped reacting to her son's behavior from fear and started responding from the Christ consciousness within herself. The transformation that eventually occurred was profound and lasting. Her son began making different choices, sought help voluntarily, and reconnected with his family. Years later, he told her something revealing. He could feel something different in how she looked at him, something that helped him remember who he really was beneath the addiction. Her shift in consciousness created space for his own awakening to occur. If you've ever experienced an unexpected solution appear after letting go of desperate control, type divine in timing in the comments below. This revelation points to a practical pathway for living Christ consciousness in your daily life. The key is consistency and recognition. Each morning before engaging with human problems, acknowledge the Christ presence as your true being. This doesn't require elaborate rituals or hours of meditation, just a quiet moment of remembering who you truly are. Throughout the day, when challenges arise, difficult conversations, unexpected obstacles, physical discomforts, pause and remember that you are not a limited human trying to fix problems. You are Christ consciousness expressing itself through seeming difficulties. This simple recognition shifts your entire relationship to problems. When you maintain this practice consistently, you'll notice that challenges don't necessarily disappear from your life, but your relationship to them transforms completely. You stop feeling victimized by circumstances and start experiencing yourself as a spiritual presence, moving through human conditions. The inner landscape of fear, anxiety, and overwhelm gradually gives way to peace, clarity, and inspired action. This isn't a path of escaping human experience, but of bringing spiritual consciousness into every aspect of your humanity. Your relationships, work, creative expressions, and daily activities all become opportunities to demonstrate the Christ presence that is your true nature. One of the most profound revelations in this work is how this understanding transforms even the most entrenched human problems. Situations that seemed completely hopeless through conventional approaches suddenly reveal pathways to resolution when viewed through spiritual recognition. Consider the journey of someone facing material challenges. When financial pressure mounts or career decisions loom, the human mind typically responds with anxiety, frantic planning, and desperate attempts to control outcomes. But through Christ consciousness, a fundamental shift occurs in how you approach these material concerns. Instead of seeing yourself as a separate entity struggling against external forces, you recognize yourself as an expression of the infinite intelligence that orchestrates the entire universe. This isn't wishful thinking or denial of practical reality. It's aligning with a deeper dimension of being that knows exactly how to guide you through material challenges. This alignment doesn't mean sitting passively and waiting for miracles. It means taking inspired action from a place of spiritual recognition rather than fear-driven reaction. It means trusting the inner wisdom that emerges when you quiet the anxious human mind and listen for divine guidance. The most beautiful aspect of this journey is how your transformation creates space for others to awaken. When you hold steadfast to the truth of someone's spiritual identity, despite their current behavior or circumstances, you establish a field of consciousness that supports their own recognition. This isn't enabling dysfunction or denying reality, it's seeing beyond temporary human expression to the permanent spiritual truth. Your unwavering vision of someone's Christ nature acts as a mirror, reflecting back to them what they've temporarily forgotten about themselves. If you're committed to remembering your true spiritual identity during daily challenges, type "I choose awareness" in the comments below. Beyond the theoretical understanding of spiritual identity lies the transformative journey of embodying this truth through consistent practice. This approach isn't about complex rituals or esoteric techniques. It focuses on simple yet profound practices accessible to anyone, regardless of their spiritual background. The first essential practice is what we might call the listening ear. This represents a radical departure from conventional prayer. Most spiritual traditions teach us to talk to God, to petition, praise, or plead with a divine presence outside ourselves. But there's something revolutionary that happens when we reverse this dynamic. Instead of constantly talking to God, the practice involves learning to be still and listen for divine guidance arising from within your own consciousness. This isn't about hearing audible words, but sensing the subtle current of wisdom that flows beneath mental chatter. Begin with just 5 minutes of complete silence each morning. Not asking for anything, not trying to solve problems, simply listening with receptive awareness. At first, you'll likely encounter the usual mental noise, worries about the day ahead, rehashing of yesterday's events, random thoughts jumping from one subject to another. But if you persist in this practice, gradually you'll sense a deeper presence emerging from behind the mental static. This is Christ consciousness communicating with your receptive awareness. The guidance that emerges from this listening practice differs dramatically from conventional decision-making. It's always loving, always constructive, always peaceful. When you learn to consult this inner wisdom before taking action, your choices align with a higher intelligence that sees beyond your human limitations. The second transformative practice is contemplative meditation on spiritual identity. Throughout your day, especially during stressful or challenging moments, silently remind yourself, I am not a body, I am not a mind, I am not emotions. I am Christ consciousness, appearing as individual being. This isn't positive affirmation or wishful thinking, it's recognition of spiritual fact. When you're stuck in traffic, rather than fuming about delays, use those moments to contemplate your true identity. When facing financial pressure instead of calculating limitations, acknowledge the infinite abundance that is your spiritual inheritance. When dealing with difficult people, look past their human behavior to the Christ presence that is their true nature beneath the facade. This practice gradually shifts your entire perspective from human reaction to spiritual response. The external circumstances haven't changed, but your relationship to them transforms completely. You stop being victimized by conditions and start demonstrating mastery through recognition of what you truly are. What makes these practices so powerful is their simplicity and accessibility. You don't need special environments, expensive retreats, or years of training. You can begin integrating them into your daily life immediately, creating small pockets of spiritual recognition throughout your day. If you've experienced moments of unexpected clarity or guidance when you became quiet within, type "Inner Wisdom Speaks" in the comments below. Now, Let's address the inevitable doubts and obstacles that arise on this path of spiritual recognition. Perhaps the biggest challenge people face when encountering these teachings is persistent doubt about their spiritual identity. After years, sometimes decades, of identifying with human limitations, suddenly recognizing yourself as Christ, consciousness can feel impossible or even presumptuous. This resistance is deeply understood and approached with profound compassion and practical wisdom. Doubt is not your enemy, but simply old mental habits that haven't yet caught up with spiritual truth. This insight alone relieves much of the frustration people experience when doubts arise during their spiritual journey. When you find yourself questioning whether this spiritual identity is really yours, or whether such profound transformation is actually possible in your life, don't fight against these doubts or feel guilty about having them. Simply acknowledge them as the human mind's natural response to expanding beyond familiar boundaries. Then gently return your attention to the recognition of your true spiritual nature. The key to overcoming doubt is persistence without force. Like water gradually wearing away stone, consistent recognition of Christ. Consciousness eventually dissolves patterns of limitation that have governed your experience. Some days the recognition feels strong and clear, other days it seems distant and difficult to access. Both experiences are natural parts of the awakening process. Behind the scenes of this journey is a profound revelation. The very consciousness that seems to be struggling with doubt is itself an expression of the Christ presence you're recognizing. Even your doubts are held within infinite love. This understanding creates space for genuine transformation without the pressure of spiritual perfectionism. As you continue this practice of recognition through both clear and cloudy states of mind, something remarkable begins to happen. The effort required diminishes. The reminders become less necessary. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, Christ consciousness becomes your natural way of being rather than something you have to remember to practice. This is the ultimate transformation that happens in dedicated students. Spiritual recognition begins to flow automatically in challenging situations. Love emerges naturally in difficult relationships. Peace becomes your default state rather than something you achieve through effort. This doesn't mean you never face difficulties or never feel human emotions. It means you navigate life's experiences from an unshakable foundation of spiritual identity. Problems still arise in your human experience, but they no longer threaten your fundamental sense of well-being, because you know who you truly are beneath all appearances. You become what we might call a transparency for Christ. Your personality remains uniquely yours, but it serves as a clear window through which divine love, wisdom, and power can express themselves in the world. The ripple effects of this transformation touch everyone you encounter, often in ways you never realize. People sense something different about your presence, a peace, a clarity, a compassion that transcends ordinary human interaction. You're not trying to influence others or demonstrate your spirituality. You're simply being authentically yourself from recognition of your true spiritual identity. And that authenticity naturally blesses everyone around you. If these teachings about overcoming doubt resonate with your own spiritual journey, type "Beyond Doubt" in the comments below. As we've journeyed together through these profound teachings about Christ consciousness, I hope you've caught even a glimpse of the divine presence that is your true spiritual identity. This understanding isn't just spiritual theory. It's a practical pathway to experiencing greater peace, healing, and divine expression in your everyday life. If these teachings have resonated with something deep within you, perhaps it's because they're awakening a recognition of who you truly are beneath all human appearances. That recognition is the beginning of a profound transformation that will touch every aspect of your life. I create these videos because I believe these spiritual truths are too powerful to remain hidden in obscure mystical texts. They're meant to be lived, experienced, and shared. If you feel the same way, consider subscribing to this channel where we explore these timeless principles of spiritual awakening every week. Your engagement means everything to this community of spiritual seekers. If something in this message has touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Simply write, "I am Christ expressing," to let me know these teachings have found their home. And if you found value in our time together, giving this video a like helps others discover these transformative teachings too. It's a simple act that creates ripples of awakening beyond what we can imagine. The journey of spiritual recognition doesn't end here. There's a video right here that explores how to maintain Christ consciousness during life's greatest challenges. Click and continue with me over there as we go even deeper into practical spiritual living. Remember, you are not alone on this path of awakening to your true divine nature. When Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," or "I am the resurrection," he wasn't making philosophical statements. He was revealing the ultimate healing principle that allowed him to transform water into wine, heal the sick, and even raise the dead. But the mystery isn't in the words themselves, it's in the consciousness behind them. Have you ever wondered why, despite all your prayers and spiritual practices, you still struggle with the same problems day after day? What if the answer has been hiding in plain sight, in just two simple words that Jesus spoke thousands of years ago? Those two words are "I am." But what if they're not just a name or a casual statement? What if they contain the entire secret to spiritual power that most of us have been missing our entire lives? Has this ever happened to you? You face a challenge, maybe it's health issues, financial struggles, or relationship problems, and you pray fervently, asking God for help, for intervention, for a solution. But what if the way we've been taught to pray has been keeping us from the very healing we seek? Stay with me until the end, because what Joel Goldsmith discovered about these two words, "I am," completely transforms our understanding of Jesus' teachings and holds the key to dissolving problems without struggle or effort. You see, when Jesus uttered "I am," he wasn't identifying with his physical body or his human personality. He was declaring something much more profound, that the presence of God was his only identity. This wasn't just a nice spiritual concept. It was a practical, demonstrable principle that changed physical reality. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because it completely reverses what most of us have been taught about our relationship with God. Instead of seeking God outside ourselves, praying to a distant power, what if God is actually the very I that you are? What if the divine presence isn't something you reach for, but the essential nature of your being? This revelation shattered Joel Goldsmith's understanding of spirituality, and through decades of practice and teaching, he discovered how this simple truth could transform every aspect of human experience: health, relationships, abundance, purpose, all through a shift in consciousness. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now imagine for a moment what it would mean if the problems you're facing aren't what they appear to be. What if they exist not because something is wrong with your life, but because you've forgotten your true identity? What if the solution isn't in changing conditions, but in remembering who you really are? This understanding of "I am" isn't just another spiritual technique or positive thinking method. It's a fundamental shift in how we perceive ourselves and our relationship with the divine. If these teachings on "I am" consciousness resonate with your spiritual journey, subscribe to join our community of seekers. Each video explores powerful principles that can transform your experience of life. This understanding changes everything because it reveals the hidden truth at the core of all spiritual teachings. For generations, we've been conditioned to think of God as separate from us, a distant power we must reach through prayer, worship, or spiritual practices. We've created this vast divide between ourselves and the divine, and then spent our lives trying to bridge a gap that never actually existed. The profound revelation that Joel Goldsmith uncovered is that God isn't something outside you that you need to connect with. God is the very I that you are. When Jesus said, "I am," he wasn't claiming something special just for himself. He was demonstrating the ultimate reality that exists within each of us. Think about the transformative impact of this understanding. It means you don't need to beg or plead for what you need. You don't need to hope that your prayers reach a distant deity who might or might not respond. The divine presence isn't something you reach for. It's your essential nature, your true identity, the foundation of your being. When you truly grasp this, your entire spiritual journey shifts. Problems don't disappear overnight, but your relationship with them fundamentally changes. You're no longer a helpless person facing overwhelming circumstances. You're the infinite expressing in finite form. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining how we actually use the words "I am" in our daily experience. Think about how often you say phrases like, "I am tired," "I am broke," "I am sick," or "I am afraid." Each time you attach "I am" to a condition or circumstance, you're making a profound declaration about your identity. But here's the revelatory insight that can reshape your mindset. The "I am" isn't about your human self, your personality, your history, or your current circumstances. When you understand the spiritual significance of these words, you realize that "I am" refers to the infinite presence expressing as you right now. This means that when you say "I am" with spiritual awareness, you're not speaking as a limited human being. You're speaking as consciousness itself, the boundless, timeless essence that is your true nature. The words that follow "I am" are either aligned with this truth, or they're identifying the infinite with temporary, limited conditions. Jesus demonstrated this understanding perfectly. He never said, "I am sick" or "I am lacking." Instead, he declared, "I am the resurrection and the life. I am the light of the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life." With each statement, he wasn't being metaphorical. He was identifying with the eternal, unchanging reality of his being. Can you imagine the freedom that comes when you stop identifying your essential self with temporary conditions? When you recognize that the I in you is the same I that Jesus was referring to? Write in the comments, "I recognize the I am within me," if this perspective is beginning to resonate with your own spiritual intuition. This revelation gets to the heart of why we suffer. Think about it. Every time you say, "I am sick," "I am broke," or "I am afraid," you're doing something profound. You're attaching your divine identity to temporary conditions. You're claiming that the infinite presence, which is your true self, is limited by circumstances. This mindset trap is the hidden source of all suffering. It's not what happens to you that causes your deepest pain. It's what you claim "I am" is. When you declare, "I am failing" or "I am not good enough," you're identifying the eternal with the temporary, the infinite with the finite. You're giving power to illusion and forgetting your true nature. Jesus demonstrated a revolutionary way of using these two powerful words. He never said, "I am sick" or "I am lacking." Instead, he declared, "I am the resurrection. I am the light. I am the way." In each instance, he was identifying with the infinite, not with conditions. He used "I am" only to claim what is eternally true, never to reinforce temporary appearances. This insight can transform your entire life journey. Your words aren't just describing your reality, they're creating it. When you attach "I am" to limitation, you're reinforcing that limitation in your experience. But when you use "I am" only with truth, with what is eternal and unchanging, your experience begins to mirror that higher consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by revealing a crucial revelation that few spiritual teachers discuss. The "I am" isn't something you create or develop through spiritual practice. It already is. You don't become the "I am" through achievement, meditation, or years of discipline. You simply stop identifying with what you are not. This is the liberating truth behind all authentic spiritual traditions. You don't need to climb a mountain to become enlightened. You don't need to spend decades in prayer to become worthy. The divine presence that is your true self already exists in its fullness right now. Your spiritual journey isn't about becoming something new. It's about uncovering what has always been. True, every problem in your life exists for one reason. You've forgotten that the "I" that you are is God expressing. Not will be, not can become, but is, right now, in this moment, regardless of appearances. This isn't positive thinking or wishful manifesting. This is spiritual law. When you're facing illness, the temptation is to say, "I am sick and I need healing." But the moment you claim "I am sick," you've denied the truth of your being. The "I" that you are cannot be sick, because that "I" is infinite spirit. The body may show symptoms, yes, but that's not the "I." The "I am" is perfect, whole, complete, and when you rest in this knowing, healing happens naturally without struggle. The same principle applies to every area of life. Not "I am poor and need supply," but "I am" is the infinite abundance of God made visible. Not "I am alone and need love," but "I am" is the presence of love itself. Drop a message in the comments saying, "I claim my divine identity," if you're beginning to see how this understanding could revolutionize your entire approach to challenges. This isn't denying circumstances or pretending problems don't exist. It's recognizing what lies beneath all circumstances, the eternal "I" that is your true identity, unchanged by any condition that appears in the world of form. What sets this understanding apart from most spiritual teachings is its radical simplicity. Most teachings give you something to do, visualize, affirm, manifest. But what Jesus revealed through "I am" is something far more powerful, a state of being. "I am" is not an action, it's a recognition. When you truly understand this, you experience a profound mindset shift. You stop trying to get things from God and start realizing that God is already the substance of your being, expressing as your experience. This revelation turns our conventional approach to healing completely upside down. Healing isn't about changing conditions, it's about changing identity. When you know yourself as the "I am," the infinite presence, conditions have no choice but to align with that truth. You don't heal the body. You recognize that the "I" of your being was never sick. You don't create abundance. You recognize that the "I am" is infinite supply. This isn't wishful thinking, it's spiritual law. The transformation that happens when this understanding deepens is remarkable. You stop living from the level of effect, reacting to appearances. Instead, you rest in the "I am," and from that resting place, every need is met, every problem dissolves, every fear vanishes, not through struggle, but through spiritual recognition. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by sharing some powerful stories of people who applied this understanding and experienced extraordinary results. These aren't theoretical concepts, but practical demonstrations of what happens when you shift your identity from a person with problems to the "I am" expressing. Margaret had suffered with chronic pain for 7 years. She'd tried everything. Doctors found nothing wrong and no treatment brought relief. When she met Joel Goldsmith, he didn't pray for her or treat her condition. He simply asked her one question: who is the I that says I am in pain? Ready to deepen your understanding of spiritual truth? Hit subscribe now to receive more insights about the divine presence within you and practical ways to live from I am consciousness. At first, Margaret was confused, but Joel pressed deeper. Is the I am you speak of capable of pain? Can infinite spirit hurt? Can God suffer? After sitting in silence for nearly 20 minutes, something shifted in her consciousness. She realized she'd been identifying her true self, the I am, with a body and its sensations. The pain didn't belong to the I that she was. It belonged to a false sense of identity. Within 3 weeks, her pain began to diminish. Within 2 months, it was completely gone. Not because she fought it, but because she stopped claiming it as her identity. Her journey of healing came not from changing the condition, but from recognizing her true nature. Robert experienced a similar breakthrough with his failing business. Every morning he'd wake up thinking, I am failing, I am losing everything. His prayers were desperate pleas for God to save his business, to send customers, to provide a miracle from outside himself. Behind the scenes of his struggle was a fundamental misconception about his identity and the source of his supply. If you've ever experienced the feeling of your true self breaking through when you let go of identifying with your problems, type, I've felt this shift, in the comments below. When Robert heard Joel speak about the I am, he experienced a profound revelation. He realized he'd been claiming lack as his identity, saying, I am broke, instead of recognizing that the I of his being is infinite supply. This mindset shift didn't just change his thoughts, it transformed his entire reality. He began a daily practice. Every morning before looking at numbers or emails, he'd sit quietly and recognize, I am is the abundance of God. I am is infinite resource. I am is divine intelligence expressing. The transformation wasn't immediate. It took 4 months. But slowly ideas came, connections appeared, and opportunities opened that had been invisible before. His business didn't just survive. It evolved into something more aligned with his true purpose. The key insight from these stories is that the change wasn't in circumstances first, it was in consciousness. When these individuals stopped identifying with lack, pain, or failure, a new reality had space to flow through them naturally. But here's where many spiritual seekers get stuck. Understanding this truth intellectually doesn't transform your life. You must practice it until it becomes your natural state of being. Joel called this practicing the presence, not thinking about God, not praying to God, but recognizing that the I of your being is God expressing right here, right now, in this moment. It's about embodying this consciousness in everyday experiences, not just in meditation or crisis. Start with the smallest moments of your day. When you wake up, before your mind fills with problems and tasks, recognize, I am awake, not as a person waking to face another difficult day, but as infinite consciousness expressing as this experience. When you eat, recognize, I am sustained by infinite substance. When you work, recognize, I am is the intelligence accomplishing this task. This isn't affirmation. There's a crucial distinction here that reveals the breakthrough potential of this approach. Affirmations try to make something true that you believe isn't true yet. They come from a place of lack, attempting to create what you don't have. Recognition, on the other hand, comes from wholeness, acknowledging what has always been present. One struggles, the other rests. One seeks, the other realizes. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring a powerful technique Joel taught for moments of crisis or intense challenge. He called it the pause. When fear grips you, when pain overwhelms you, when circumstances seem impossible, you pause everything. You don't react, you don't try to solve, you don't panic. Instead, you pause and return to the I am. This simple act interrupts the false identity and creates space for truth to emerge. In the pause, you ask, what is the truth of my being right now? Not what appears, but what is eternally true, and the truth is always the same. I am is the presence of God, untouched by any condition. I am is whole. I am is supplied. I am is safe. Not because circumstances prove it, but because this is the nature of infinite being expressing as you. If you've ever experienced a moment where pausing changed everything and allowed clarity to emerge, share the pause changed everything in the comments. A powerful insight emerges when you apply I am consciousness to your relationships with others. Every time you judge yourself or others, you're operating from personal sense, the belief that you are a separate person viewing other separate people. But from I am consciousness, a remarkable revelation dawns. The I am doesn't judge because it recognizes only itself in all. Think about the profound implications of this for your daily interactions. When someone wrongs you, the human reaction is anger, hurt, judgment. You see them as separate from you, perhaps even as an enemy, but from I am consciousness, you recognize that this person's true identity is also I am, the presence of God. They've just forgotten who they are, just as you've forgotten at times. This doesn't mean ignoring harmful behavior or abandoning appropriate boundaries. It means seeing beyond the appearance to the truth. It means recognizing that when people act from fear, anger, or greed, they're operating from a false sense of self, a case of mistaken identity. Their actions don't come from their true nature, but from their forgetting of it. Practice this with yourself first. When you fail, when you make mistakes, when you fall short of your ideals, notice how quickly judgment arises. That judgment is personal sense attacking personal sense. Instead, return to truth. The I, that you are never failed, because the I am is perfect. The mistake happened in the dream of personal identity. Wake up to your real self and begin again from wholeness. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what Joel called impersonal supply, a revolutionary perspective that transforms your entire relationship with abundance. We've been taught that supply comes from jobs, people, investments, sources outside ourselves. This creates perpetual fear and insecurity. What if the source dries up? What if you lose the job? What if the person leaves? But when you understand that I am is infinite supply, you realize source is never outside you. Your employer isn't your source. Your clients aren't your source. Your investments aren't your source. I am is your source. And that source is infinite, never-ending, always flowing. This revelation completely reshapes your financial mindset. The channels through which supply appears may change. One job may end and another begin. One stream of income may dry up while three others open. But the source, the I am, never diminishes, never fails, never runs out. Begin living from this. Knowing in your daily experience, when you pay bills, recognize I am is infinite supply making itself visible. When you work, recognize I am is the substance of my abundance. When you give, recognize I am gives from infinite fullness, not from personal limitation. This consciousness attracts supply through unexpected channels, synchronistic opportunities, and ways you could never have planned or manipulated into being. You stop living in scarcity and start experiencing the natural flow of abundance that has always been your birthright. The shift from seeing money as something you get from outside yourself to recognizing it as the expression of the infinite I am that you are transforms not just your finances, but your entire relationship with the material world. If you're beginning to see how this principle of impersonal supply could transform your experience of abundance, write "I am is my source" in the comments. Let's be honest about something important. Knowing this truth, intellectually and living it consistently, are entirely different experiences. You'll have moments where you completely forget, where fear overwhelms the truth, where circumstances seem so real, so pressing, so urgent, that I am consciousness feels like fantasy. Even Joel Goldsmith experienced this. Every spiritual teacher has. This is normal. This is part of the journey. The first challenge comes when nothing seems to change. You practice, you recognize, you identify as I am, and your circumstances remain exactly the same. The illness continues. The lack persists. The problem doesn't dissolve. Your mind screams, "This doesn't work. You're fooling yourself. You need to take action. Do something. Fix it the old way through human effort and struggle." Joel's answer to this challenge was simple, but not easy. Spiritual realization works in consciousness first, not in conditions. Sometimes the inner shift happens quickly, and outer change follows immediately. Sometimes the inner work takes weeks or months of consistent practice before you see evidence in the physical world. Your job isn't to make things happen. Your job is to know the truth and remain faithful to it, regardless of appearances. This requires a patience that goes against everything our instant gratification culture has taught us. The hidden truth is that transformation often happens beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible. Another challenge arises from other people's reactions. When you start living from I am consciousness, you become different. You stop complaining. You stop participating in fear-based conversations. You stop agreeing that circumstances are terrible and hopeless. Some people will think you're in denial. Others will think you've joined a cult. Some will actively try to pull you back into agreement with limitation. A man in Joel's classes lost friends when he stopped engaging in their constant complaints about money, health, and politics. They thought he didn't care. They accused him of being cold, disconnected, superior. But he wasn't judging them. He simply couldn't participate in claiming lack and limitation as truth anymore. He had to choose between the comfort of agreement and the integrity of consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how I am consciousness transforms your relationships. Most relationship problems come from seeking completion in another person. You feel incomplete, so you look for someone to fill the emptiness. You feel unloved, so you need someone to love you. But this places impossible demands on human relationships and guarantees disappointment. When you recognize I am is infinite love, the very nature of your being, everything changes. You're not seeking love, you're expressing the love you are. You don't need completion from another because you're already whole. Relationships become the sharing of wholeness rather than the trading of neediness. This doesn't mean you don't desire partnership. It means you desire it from fullness, not from lack. One woman practiced this after 3 failed marriages. She stopped looking for someone to make her happy and started recognizing I am is infinite love and joy. The mindset breakthrough transformed not just her inner landscape, but her entire relationship destiny. If you've experienced a shift from seeking love outside yourself to recognizing love as your essential nature, type I am complete within myself in the comments. The understanding of I am brings remarkable clarity to how we approach health and well-being. Medical treatment certainly has its place, but I am consciousness reveals something deeper. Your body isn't your identity. The I am you are is pure spirit, perfect life, incapable of disease. This revelation doesn't mean denying symptoms or refusing appropriate care. It means not identifying with the condition. You have a body showing symptoms. You are not those symptoms. The I that you are is eternally whole. Joel Goldsmith himself experienced the power of this understanding when he healed from tuberculosis. Doctors had given him months to live, but he refused to claim the disease as his identity. He didn't fight it or fear it. He simply rested in the knowing, I am is perfect life. The disease has nothing to do with my true identity. His body healed completely, and he lived decades beyond the doctor's prognosis. You can practice this with any health challenge. Instead of saying, I'm sick, recognize, the body is showing symptoms, but I am is whole. Don't identify with the diagnosis. Remember that a diagnosis describes a condition in matter, but your true self is spirit, untouched by material conditions. This isn't denial, it's discernment between what is temporary and what is eternal. The same revelation transforms your relationship with work and purpose. Most people see their job merely as how they survive. They trade time and energy for money, often enduring work they hate because they need income. But I am consciousness transforms work from survival into expression. Your work becomes how infinite intelligence and creativity flow into visible form. Not work you must do, but work you're designed to do. When you recognize I am is infinite intelligence, you stop forcing. You stop trying to figure everything out through limited human thinking. You pause, recognize the I am, and allow ideas to flow from that infinite source. The right work finds you, the right opportunities appear, the right people cross your path, not through networking and manipulation, but through spiritual alignment with your true nature. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the ultimate integration, living as I am consistently. This isn't something you do during meditation or when problems arise. It becomes your constant state of being. You wake as I am. You walk as I am. You work as I am. You love as I am. You rest as I am. Every experience becomes the infinite expressing in finite form. You're no longer a person trying to be spiritual. Your spirit appearing as person. This transformation doesn't make you perfect in behavior. You'll still make mistakes, still have preferences, still experience the full range of human emotions. But underneath it all, you know what you are. Think of it this way. A wave still looks like a wave, moves like a wave, has its unique shape and expression. But it never forgets it's the ocean. You're the wave that knows itself as the infinite sea, expressing in this particular form. This awareness doesn't separate you from human experience. It deepens your engagement with it. Joel lived this way. People around him felt something different, not superiority or detachment, but presence. When he entered a room, consciousness shifted. When he spoke, people's problems often dissolved without him directly addressing them. If this idea of living as I am in every moment resonates with the journey you're on, share I am the wave and the ocean in the comments. You know, what we've explored today isn't just philosophy or spiritual theory. It's a practical, transformative understanding that can reshape every aspect of your life when you begin to live from it. Joel Goldsmith spent decades discovering and teaching this profound truth that Jesus demonstrated. The I am is not just a name or a statement. It's the key to spiritual freedom. Start today, right now. Whatever you're facing, whatever challenge or fear or need is pressing on you, pause. Stop trying to solve it humanly. Stop seeing yourself as a person with a problem. Return to truth. Recognize I am is the only presence and power. I am is whole. I am is supplied. I am is safe. I am is loved. Not because conditions prove it, but because this is the eternal nature of being. As this becomes your foundation, watch what happens. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily, consistently, powerfully. Problems that seemed impossible begin to dissolve. Needs you struggled to meet begin to be fulfilled through unexpected channels. Relationships that were painful begin to heal. Not because you made it happen, but because you stopped blocking it with false identity. If you've found value in these insights and want to continue exploring this path of spiritual awareness with me, hit the subscribe button below. I share these practical spiritual teachings regularly, focusing on how to apply them in your daily life for real transformation. If this message resonated with your soul today, simply leave a comment saying, "I am awake to my true self, so I know who's walking this path with me." And if you found this helpful, giving the video a like helps others discover these teachings too. It's a simple way to extend the light of understanding to those who might be searching for exactly this message. I've created a video right here that takes this understanding even deeper, exploring how to apply I Am consciousness to healing specific life challenges. Click and join me there as we continue this journey of spiritual awakening together.